So what is the difference between an emotional affair and a friendship? My name is Leah Huynh. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and today I'm going to talk about emotional affairs, what they are, and how to move past them. So an emotional affair is a non-sexual relationship that has all of the emotional elements that you would have in a romantic relationship. Emotional relationships often start platonic, right? So they might be a coworker, they might be a neighbor, maybe another parent from a sports team that your kid is on. You're not going into a situation thinking, oh, I really want to have an emotional affair. But oftentimes it kind of creeps into that direction as the friendship grows. So here are the signs of an emotional affair versus a friendship. Emotional affairs, you're going to have more intimate sharing. If I can give you an analogy, right? For physical intimacy, there are things that you would only do with your partner, right? There are ways that you would bear yourself in a way that you would not bear yourself with a friend or, somebody that is not an intimate partner, right? And now it's the same thing with emotional affair partners, is you would bear yourself emotionally in a way that you wouldn't bear yourself with a friend or somebody else, right? It's something more personal, more deep. It requires a level of safety and intimacy that you don't quite have with somebody that's just a friend. The second mark of an emotional affair is if you're always thinking about that person, right? They're just always on your mind. You're always wondering what they're doing. You're just constantly thinking about them a lot. They're just present in your life that a normal friend wouldn't be present in terms of your thoughts, in terms of like the way you do things. Maybe you would go to work earlier so that you could see them or talk to them. You are very intentional about spending time because they're on your mind. A third mark is you are spending greater amounts of time with this person than you normally would with a friend, right? So again, you're going out of your way to spend time with this person. A lot of times when I see clients whose spouses or partners have been in an emotional affair, a lot of times they come with the text messages, right? And you can see like loads and loads and loads of like text messages constantly throughout the day, right? Like thousands of text messages. This is not just a friendship. This is something that goes beyond the boundaries of a friendship because they are constantly talking on the phone. I had somebody say like, we were on vacation and you were on the phone with them. You weren't spending time with me. So there's a way in which the time spent with them is greater than the time you would spend with a friend, and even greater than the time that you would spend with your significant other. The next hallmark sign is treating them special, right? So maybe you might buy them gifts. You might be extra thoughtful when it's their birthday, right? You might do these things that you would only do for someone that you really feel is close to your heart, right? So it's not like a friend where it's like, oh, like here's like a Starbucks gift card, right? These are things that are very thoughtful, like, oh, I know you really like this type of crystal and I got it engraved for you, right? Or you enjoyed Taylor Swift, I got you tickets to her concert and we're going together. So it's these special things that are very intimate that maybe only you would know about, or they're very extravagant that you would buy for maybe a loved one or somebody that is very special to you. And then the next hallmark would be intimate language, right? So things that you would only do with somebody that you're very close to. So like nicknames, little inside jokes, sexual innuendos that you might be using when you're talking to that person. So there's this kind of language that when you see it, you're like, ooh, that just doesn't sound like a friend. And a lot of times that's how these emotional affairs are caught, is one spouse will see the text and they'll say, I can't wait to see you tonight, or you look so cute, or I hope that maybe one day I can go there with you. A lot of those types of language can often show a boundary that's being crossed into an emotional affair. Now, what to do with an emotional affair? The first thing is you want to be very clear about your commitment, because emotional affairs, they are different than like a one-night stand or just somebody that, I don't know, maybe you hooked up with when you're drunk, or somebody that you flirted with at the bar when you were inebriated. I think an emotional affair involves your heart and it involves your emotions. And so oftentimes it can be very hard to separate from an emotional affair partner. But if you know that you want to make it work with your spouse or your real partner, then you have to make sure that this is something that you really want, right? And this is something that you're willing to do, which is to make your relationship work, because it is going to be hard moving forward as you're building trust, as you are maybe even grieving the loss of this person that you felt was very close to you. There's a lot that you're going to have to give up. So you have to be very clear that you want to work on this relationship. You have to be very, very certain of that. Because if you're not, you're going to half-heartedly do what you need to do or say what you need to say, but you're going to feel resentful because you have to do all of these things. It's just not going to be a pretty situation. And this is very important. Be very sure that this is what you want and you're willing to work hard for it. The second thing is you have to take it seriously. So a lot of people say, well, it wasn't really like a real affair. It wasn't a physical affair, but you have to understand that to the other person, it really does feel like an affair, right? I mean, obviously, if you went the step further, that would be much worse, but an emotional affair, it can feel just as a betrayal as a physical affair, right? And not only that, it involves your heart. It just feels much more anxiety provoking because, again, it's not like a one-night stand or somebody that you don't care about. This is somebody that you've built trust, you've shared things. There's just a lot that happens in an emotional affair, and you have to acknowledge that, and you have to take it seriously as if it was a real, even a physical affair. Like, understand that the pain can be just as bad when it's a emotional affair, and don't just write it off like, oh, it was nothing, we were just friends. Like, be honest with yourself about how you feel and take it seriously with your spouse or your partner. The next thing is to get open and honest, right? So obviously this isn't about physical affairs, but if there was a physical affair, please be honest about that, because you cannot move forward if it's based on a lie, right? If you really did have feelings for this person, don't say, oh, they were just a friend, or don't delete all the evidence, right? Because if your spouse or your partner catches that you've deleted your evidence, their mind is already going to the worst place, right? You really want to be open and honest about what really happened, because they're already thinking the worst. And when you hide things, that even makes it more stressful for them to have to deal with it, because they have no idea what's going on. They don't know if you're telling the truth. It's really, really hard to build trust. So if you can show them that you're being open and honest with everything, telling them everything, even the things that are hard, they're going to trust you. If you sugarcoat everything and you say, oh, we didn't really hang out that much, but you really did, you cannot move forward. Okay, because I'll tell you this, your partner, they're not dumb, right? They can sense things. They might not catch every time that you're lying, but they might catch 1 or 2 times that you're lying, and that will just ruin everything, right? So you're better off just be honest about everything. Okay, you cannot move forward without that. The next thing is you need to cut ties with your affair partner, right? So even though it's just an emotional affair, you need to, again, treat this very seriously as if this is a real physical affair. And a lot of times, again, it's like a coworker or it's like somebody that you see on a regular basis. You need to make sure that you are setting really good boundaries with them. If it's a coworker, let them know, hey, there's a strict line that we cannot cross. There are times you cannot text me. There are things you cannot say. Or if you can move departments. I've seen clients where that has really relieved a lot of the stress. And if your relationship is worth it, do what you can to change your circumstances so you're not around this person anymore. You're not tempted, right? Because it might start with a text and then it might go on to something else and then something else, and you're back to square one. So you really want to make sure that you're cutting off this relationship, that you are setting clear boundaries with this person. The next thing is, I think, for both sides to grieve, right? So the person that was cheated on obviously needs to grieve, right? They need to grieve what they thought the relationship was, who they thought their partner was. They need to grieve the trust that they no longer have, that they have to rebuild. They have to grieve their sense of self. There's so much they have to grieve. There's so much to be angry about, right? That's going to be the first step, is the crisis phase when you figure out that your spouse has been cheating or your partner has been cheating. You have to grieve and you have to have all of those emotions, right? And then I would say the person that has cheated, even they have to grieve too, because they have to grieve that their relationship is no longer the same, that there's going to be distance, and they might even have to grieve their affair partner that they had to give up or cut off ties with, right? But obviously don't grieve that in front of your partner. Get a therapist, talk to a close friend. You can have those feelings, right? I mean, that's just a natural part of, when you have an attachment and then you have to cut that off, right? So it's okay to have those feelings, just don't do it in front of your affair partner. But there's going to be a lot of grief that's happening during this time. Okay, the next one is build safeguards, build boundaries. And I talked about this a little bit earlier, right? Is like in the communication, make sure you're not communicating certain things. You're not texting at a certain time. You're not calling that person and having long conversations. Or if you have to change jobs, if you can, right? Make a move within the department to make sure you're not around that person anymore. I see a lot of my clients that had affairs, not just emotional, but both kinds of affairs on like work trips. So if you can, make sure that you're not traveling anymore, at least for the season while you're trying to build this, or make sure there's a lot of communication in place so that you're not in the same like area with the affair partner. If you're going on trips, just make sure there's good boundaries, because what's going to happen is if you don't have those boundaries, your partner is going to be extra anxious. And not only that's that bad for her, but that's going to be bad for you because you're going to be dealing with all of the emotions that come with the anxiety. So we just really want this time to be a time of healing, right? So set those boundaries if you need to. Let your spouse or your partner have access to your phone so they can see all of the texts that you're texting. If there's nothing to hide, there's no reason they can't see it. And this is, again, just for a season. They don't want to be looking at your phone. They have better things that they need to be doing. Just show it to them as a offering of transparency, right? The next thing is communicate your needs, right? So for both sides, there might be things that each of you need. Maybe the person that has been cheated on needs extra hugs, extra affirmation, extra this, or they might need space, right? They might say, I'm not ready to be close to you. I feel betrayed, right? Or I need you to not be on your phone at all, right? Like, I don't want you on your phone. When we're together, it's just you and me, right? Or the person that's been cheated on, maybe the reason why you had the emotional affair, this is not an excuse, it's an explanation, was maybe you felt disconnected from your partner, right? So what you need to do is communicate what you need. Hey, I need more closeness with you. I need more time with you. I need to talk with you. So communicate those needs so that you're not coping by going to somebody else. The next thing is create new habits of relating, right? So again, this goes along with the needs, right? If in the past, maybe you both were just very busy with your own lives, now create new ways, new habits. Go on dates together, right? Spending quality time. If there's something with your physical intimacy going on, work on that, right? Work on the things that you need to work on and create new habits and ways of being as a relationship. The last thing is continue to communicate, right? Because this is very, very important. It's not just the first I would say the first 6 months are like the crisis phase. Even after the 6 months have passed, or however time it takes you to get past that phase, continue to communicate your needs, the things that you like, the things that you don't like, the things that you need more of. This is really key in any relationship, right? Because if you hold those things in, you're going to get resentful. You may fall into temptation. So just make sure you are communicating on a regular basis and you are looking out for each other's needs. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. I think this is useful even with physical affairs too, but I did want to throw in the emotional affair piece because a lot of people get confused. Like, is it an emotional affair? Is it not? My partner's denying it. I thought that was really important to really establish at first. If you have any more questions, you can leave them in the comments below. I usually respond to all of my comments. You can contact me at the link below if you want to work with me, and take care.